Public education system in our state has disadvantaged black students. And what I mean by that is the fact that what I've seen, that it's a perpetuation of a culture and a neighborhood that they leave, bring that to the school with their friends and everything, and what's happening in the neighborhood is simply brought to school in an extension of that neighborhood, and not true education is taking place. You have the drugs, you have the gangs, although we're not as proliferate in the gang as we had been in the past when we first came here to this location. But you have the drugs, you have the jewelry, you have the, it's not cool to get an education, it's not cool to be smart, let's just hang out, anti-establishment, anti-authority. You bring all of that into a school system where you're not going to be educated. You're going to fight against the teacher. You're going to continue the fight within the neighborhoods right there at school, because now we all meet up at school and various neighborhoods meet up at the same place. So we're just simply carrying out a culture that we left.
So the school campus becomes a compression of the culture instead of an escape.
Yes.
So it's compounded.
Exactly.
The problems are compounded and compressed and isolated into one place in the community, and it's called a school.
Exactly.
So how do we fix that? What's the solution to that?
Well, one thing our public school system has learned and is learning, and that is parental involvement. Parental involvement being so important that we're pouring billions of dollars into that one variable to get the parents in the school and involved in the school, because studies have shown that that's what helps the students in their academic achievement, even in bullying and all those violence. We have, not only drugs in school, but violence and guns and knives, that we're trying to overcome that. But I suggest to extend that to, and not just look at parental involvement, but let's focus on empowering parents to make a choice. That really gets them involved from the beginning, and not an afterthought, an after effect. They choose the education they want their child to have, whether that's public, private, Christian, or homeschooling. Let them make the choice. Let them see the school system or education of their children as an extension of what they are teaching in their home.
When we were talking earlier, you were talking about that when we first started out in education in this country, that the teacher worked for the parent, and that's been reversed.
Yes. In history, it used to be an indentured servant. The teacher came in, worked for the parents, and taught the child, and that teacher was directly accountable to that parent. Well, now the teachers are not directly accountable to the parent. They're accountable to a school board, to a bureaucracy. And what's happening now, the parent is accountable to the teacher for getting the child to school, make sure they do their homework, helping them with their tests, helping them to make the school function and be what it should be. And so the whole thing is turned around. The accountability is no longer brought back to the home. So parents have abdicated that responsibility of being a parent and taking that responsibility.
Do you think the abdication of parents, because I think most of us will agree that's happened, has that precipitated the school taking over, or has the bureaucracy taking over education precipitated the abdication of parents? Which came first there, do you think?
I believe the latter. I think when the education system was set up with school boards and the school district, that placed the authority of the child to a system and eliminated the parent's authority. You had a compulsory attendance. They had to be in school. And so the parent was doing what they needed to do to obey that law, which nothing's wrong with that. And so you have this big system and the parents coming under that, and so you have a disorder, really, from as far as the child. So you have a disrespect starting in the home. The parent doesn't know anything. Everything is the school. Everything is the teacher. instead of the parent deciding what they want their child to learn, to do, to be, and guiding that. And so now it's whatever the system, and so the system is producing its own citizen to think for the common good, for the whole, and so it's become a prominent issue.
And you were talking about how education has become a platform for engineering social change.
Yes, let the money follow the child, and with that focus, you have the child as the focus in the education of that particular child. It's not one size fit all. Just as children are born into families, and all families, they're not born into all families, they're born into a particular family with particular needs. So if the money follows the child, then the parent is able to choose which milieu, which education best meets the need of that child, who the parent better knows the child than a system that's not focusing on that child. So the money should follow the child. That brings better accountability for education of teachers to the parent and the individual needs of the family, and not the bureaucracy or the system that we're trying to uphold because of teacher unions, because of job security. It's not the main issue, but the child is, when the money follows the child. And that places school system, districts accountable, not just to one another in unions and organizations, but accountable to that parent that's giving you their child for those hours to educate. And so it'll bring a better system, because you're not going to try to sustain your political agenda. We know the NEA is one of the largest contributors to political candidates. We know that. And so they have another agenda. And I'm afraid it's not the child.